And I wanted to actually start off by talking about the Illuminati, because I'm curious
Hmm.
what the biggest challenge was with a character like Captain Carter, who obviously fans first saw in What If rather than decades worth of comics. What's the biggest challenge for you to translate that sort of costume to the screen in live action?
Um, yeah, I mean, getting to a design that everyone is comfortable with. Ryan Meinerding actually illustrated that out the back of What If, because he was already working on What If at the same time. And before that show was aired, we were already making the costume before we actually saw it actually in the animation. We'd already pretty much kind of probably gone through a first fitting with Hayley. We saw her a few times in London, and that probably sounds not unusual that you'd see actors for an actual live fitting, but in the middle of COVID, there were so many fittings that were just done on Zoom. And you have to get to the point where, producers and studio have to understand the process that, if it's a store-bought item, then yes, you can just, you're a medium, great, but for something that's so kind of detailed. So I got out of archives. So I worked on First Avenger, and I worked on Ultron. So made that costume for Chris Evans those 2 times from scratch, with the new design for Ultron, of course. So I was in workshops in those days, and I was costume effects supervisor, and on many other films too, but the 6 up till then, the 5 Marvel films, I'd been the guy in the workshop that heads up the workshop and gets the sculptors, clay sculptors, 3D modelers, people cutting fabric, people dyeing fabric, printing it, going out, finding the fabric, just like dozens and dozens and dozens of people. Yeah, we had like 160 or 170 on Strange. So it was very intense. The making department was vast, absolutely vast. People embroidering, people dyeing, printing. I mean, it just so much work to get the detail into the costumes that everyone sort of loves. You had to be so labor intensive and kind of ideally have a clear view on what you're doing, so you don't waste the kind of 12 weeks and then make something in a rush at the end. But the Captain Carter, yeah, that came out of What If, and I mean, I'm really happy we can say that to a Brit, almost get to reclaim the flag, because I think some people would have been nervous about flaunting the Union Jack around on a character. And hey, in the comics, he's a big guy, right? It's so the kind of gender swap, if you like, with Captain Carter out of What If was a whole sort of thing by itself. And so I kind of because of What If, didn't go all the way back to First Avenger, which was very Second World War, and tried to blend it a bit more with the costume ideas that we came up with on Ultron for Captain America. And so, I mean, trivia, but the fabric on her costumes, exactly the same fabric that actually comes from the States, the base fabric that on that Ultron costume. And then we printed it in London, and there's a sort of importance to add a kind of, it just lifts the fabric if we do all these kind of raised prints on it. And so yeah, so just trying to find the right combat pants that worked on Hayley, and the proportion of the jacket, it was just all those you just need those fittings in order to get to something as good as it looks now. Otherwise, without fittings, you're just making something, like I said, it's just, we'll give you a small or a medium, and then people don't look good. But yeah, I think we made like 6 or 8 of those. I mean, that's we have got up to 20 repeats on some costumes, which is quite a lot, because they're very labor intensive.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And it came out terrifically. And of course, on the other hand, then you've got Sir Patrick Stewart playing at what feels like a very X-Men, the animated series inspired version of that character, but of course it's not a superhero costume. He is wearing a suit. So
No,
is that a
yeah,
simpler process while you're also obviously maybe trying to pay homage to
that,
like a TV show like that?
totally. That was straight from Kevin, and from his youth, he'd watched the 80s animation and said, we want to do instead of the wheelchair, the yellow, I call them dodgems or bumper cars. I don't know what they call them in the States. I've forgotten what they're called in the States, but you know what I mean. So I had this sort of fairground kind of look to the bumper car wheelchair, which is in the animation, as you know, and the green suit. And I sent Kevin pictures of Sir Patrick's fitting, and he was just over the moon. We'd done the green suit and the striped tie exactly like the comic. And Patrick Stewart was so I made that like as a Savile Row tailored suit, and I was made in with Yorkshire woolens, and because I worked with Patrick many years ago, and he's actually I'd forgotten, but he reminded me on the call that his mother used to work in the woolen trade in Yorkshire. So he was very happy. He was wearing something sort of from that heritage. And yeah, he doesn't need a superhero suit, right? He's Patrick Stewart. But I think that was just taken directly from the animation, which Kevin was the kind of first to say, you know, that's what we're doing. Can you do that?
Oh, amazing. And obviously you have, as you said, you've worked on a lot of these Marvel films now. And I've read this week that Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic, their costumes were done solely with VFX. So do you almost feel disappointed that two big characters like that, obviously making their debut here, that you don't get to take a crack at those costumes? I'm guessing maybe because of timing and things like that.
Yeah. I feel sorry for Yannick Sers and Cindy that they had to shoehorn those in at the last moment, because we had designs for other characters. And then we didn't have casting, and there were travel bans that I didn't go. And like when we were shooting the Illuminati in London, actors like Sir Patrick couldn't come to London because of travel. And so there was a big Richie Palmer, and everyone had big wish list of like who was going to be in the Illuminati. And so when it came down to those two characters being settled on, it was then even too late to make something locally in Los Angeles, just way too late, too close. And it was probably too close for comfort for visual effects to really do that, because I mean, up to that point, everything else had been physically there. All of Wanda, you know, when she's flying around camouflage, yet she's on a very elaborate wire rig that's like a spider rig. It goes, I don't know, like 6 ways. There's just different wires that can pull you in different directions. And so where possible, pretty much everything is physical in the costume, you know, unless they say, hey, the skirt's getting in the way, or you know, something's getting in the way of the rig, then we leave it in there. So it just gives visual effects one less thing to do out of the million things that they have to do in to bring these characters and enhance them in the way you see them. But Lashana Lynch as Captain Marvel, we built that entirely from scratch. You know, we start with a 3D scan in a photogrammetry booth, and then we mill out a form of the person, and then we start building the costume on top of that, sculpting things in the computer, printing those out, molding them, offering them up till you get to the point saying, let's bring the actor in for fitting, and then kind of fine-tuning it until you get something like that. I mean, I was really happy with Lashana's costume. I mean, the fit and performance, and she was able to fight. All I'm saying is a lot was cut, you know. A very, very quick end for the Illuminati, and we shot a ton more, but maybe it'll be on the Blu-ray, some deleted stuff for everyone to see.
Fingers crossed. And were there any costumes or characters that you worked on that obviously didn't make the final cut, which is, I think, is the nature of the beast with movies like this, that you wish fans could have seen on screen, or are you quite happy you got the vast majority in there?
I'm so happy with what's there. But yeah, we did spend a lot of time when Wong goes to Wundagore. The remaining students kind of rally together, and because they've lost their sling rings, they donned cold weather gear to climb the ice wall to Wundagore to help him. And so I designed all these costumes. There were like 12 students, double, stunt. We probably made about 50 costumes there for doubles, second unit shooting at the same time. And unfortunately, because of the running time, that whole section was cut. But, you know, they weren't like high street branded Arctic Explorer costumes. Obviously, I made ones like Shackleton would have worn. So I had this fantasy that they found a crate somewhere in the bottom of Camotage, and it's just like some Edwardian sort of climbers gear in there with literally, you know, or someone like Edmund Hillary or Shackleton would have worn in a kind of early part of the 19th century Arctic explorer, Antarctic even.
Yeah, for
Does that
sure.
make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a shame we didn't get to see that, but there are so many terrific costumes in this.
Oh my God. I mean, they were simple because they were like, they were like canvas kind of cagoles, but they had all this kind of leather work and these crazy mitts and keep warm stuff that you'd had in the Edwardian period. But yeah, that kind of went, and but what we have was just so amazing. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorites, obviously right at the end of the film, in the mid-credit scene, we see Charlize Theron as Clea. Such a wonderful, elaborate costume. And so just finally for you, Graham, what was it like translating that from the comics to screen? Because again, it seems like a really hard costume to maybe get right, and it just ends up looking, I think, perfect.
Well, sometimes if you spend too long doing something, so basically, before they cast her, we had many other ideas and ideas of casting that were kind of thrown up. There you go, because you kind of need the actor sort of ideally cast or in the room talking to you before you really start making stuff, because you need a lot of input from them as well as the director and the producers in the studio, you know, because they're in the end, they're the ones that are totally on screen and watching themselves, and they have to be happy with all of that. But basically, we went back to the comic. There was an earlier version where she was a gardener of the multiverse and a lot more kind of floaty and serene and just quite a different person. Obviously, when that casting came in, it was just like, well, she's a warrior. So from a dark dimension, and yeah, she's related to Dormammu, we know that. So the elements of her costume kind of reflect the world, the dark dimension kind of colors. And at the same time, literally just going straight back to the comics pretty quickly and redesigning it at short notice when we finally got the casting, and doing the trousers with all the circles like you see in the early comics. I mean, and the big shoulders. And yeah, when you look at the costume, I created some transparent elements to the shoulders so that John Matheson's wonderful lighting could travel through the armor without it creating a sort of silhouette block, because I didn't want it to be like one of the guys. I was trying to create something in between this sort of extraordinary warrior from a different dimension, but without making her too like blocking the light too much. So it was just back to the comics, and then a quick series of Ian Joyner and John Staub kind of on Photoshop, and then we got to that design. But we kind of make it in tandem with visual effects, visual development, viz dev at the same time, you know.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, Graham, we have to wrap, unfortunately. So many great costumes in this film I'd love to ask you about, but so great to dive into these ones because they were some of my favorites, and such a pleasure to speak to you. I hope we can do it again. So thank you.
Anytime.
Have a great